smart TV. Submit your own content on info@millenniumnews24.com. Download the Millennium News 24 app from the App Store to stream our shows anywhere, anytime. Stay tuned with Millennium TV and Millennium News 24 for the latest updates.
Welcome, 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 welcome. I do believe we are live. Welcome to Millennium. Welcome to Universal Pathways, a show brought to viewers right here on Millennium 24 News. This network pretty much is aired globally. This show, Universal Pathways, is every Saturday from 1 o'clock to 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Viewers can download the Millennium News 24 app on their iPhone App Store or go to your Google Play Store and download the Millennium 24 News app as well. We're on all smart TVs. In addition to, viewers can actually view us globally by way of Horizon Satellite Beyond Boundaries. Again, the show is viewed live right here every Saturday from 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock. Do make sure that you view us live on Facebook. The viewership as well can view us later on at our YouTube page as well. Please make sure that you subscribe, like, and share. Again, all smart TVs, in addition to Apple TV, Roku, Amazon, Fire Stick, etc. Today is truly an honor to be here in the studio. Imagine being away on the island of Hawaii and meeting somebody for the first time and realize that you actually live in the same neighborhood. That is what transpired. Myself and my family was actually in Hawaii, and we met this young man, Brother Amor Ill. And that's why even in today's show, we mentioned the fact that he's a sustainable living advocate. Why is that? He was in Maui. He's affectionately known to us as the Maui Moor. But I don't want to be too long-winded in making this introduction today, because I think the nature of this show, Universal Pathways, as we do speak with our viewers and our guests, our viewers will now learn from their life experience something so they can have that aha moment. It is said that in life, there's 3 ways that we can actually learn. 3 ways. The foolish man never learned from his mistake. The smart man learned from his mistakes. And then the wise man, however, the third, learned from his mistake, the fool mistake, as well as the smart man mistake. So in life, the hope is for us to be wise. So I say all that to say, we're here in the studio today, Universal Pathway, with my good brother, an advocate for sustainable living, Brother Amor Ill. How are you doing today?
Very good. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. Yeah. Alhamdulillah. I know I didn't say much in introducing you, but I figure what better way for once to really get to know you than for you to give us a brief introduction of yourself. So yes, I met you in Briarwood, to put out the, where I live now, right? Don't be showing up my house. We met on the Big Island in Hawaii. We were there for the Moravian Conference, of course, which is basically hosted by the Moors in Hawaii. The National Grand Sheik of the United Moor Science of America, Brother Nathaniel Booth Ill, affectionately known by his pen name Cosmo Ill, hosted that event. And yourself and 2 other brothers actually came, affectionately known as the Maui Moor. So what was it that happened to you in Hawaii, in Maui, to then be on the Big Island? But even more so, as you go into that, just give us a brief introduction of yourself.
Yeah, so assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to everybody that is going to witness this, that can hear this. And let's see. A brief introduction to me. I was born in what is known today as Dominican Republic.
Okay.
And that's actually a very good starting point as to how I got where I am today with my identity as a Moorish American. Because as I looked more into myself, knowing thyself, you see what kind of labels are put onto us.
Yes.
And what does it really mean? So I was like, well, Dominican, okay, I'm Dominican. What does that mean? Well, I looked into the history. I was like, well, the Aboriginal indigenous of that land are the Taino, the Quisqueyano, and Dominican. That came from the Spanish Inquisition Order of Saint Dominic.
Okay.
So before it was Spain, we know it was Al Andalusia. And after King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella started their expansion and their conquest, they employed Christopher Columbus to go out and start to expand, to discover new worlds for them to claim for their own. And what is known today as Dominican Republic actually was the first land that Christopher Columbus landed on at that time in 1492. And they used to call it Hispaniola before it was Dominican Republic, but all of these are exonyms, what other people was calling us. So looking more into who it was that I am and my path, I realized that once I came in contact with the knowledge of the Prophet Noble Drew Ali and the Moorish science, that it resonated a lot more to me than what was taught to me in school, what was taught to me by everybody around me. And once I took that knowledge, started studying it, I realized this is something I want others to also get to learn. So I spearheaded the Maui Moors movement. And it's beautiful how as soon as I put the information out there on my Instagram, I realized there were more people that knew that they were Moors.
Wow.
So there was already like a dormant energy that needed to be activated.
Okay.
People that knew that they were Moors, there wasn't a proper organization for us to come together. So I started doing every Fridays where we would meet up and we would go over Moorish literature and share different visions and ideas of how we can support each other.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's kind of how the Maui Moors came to be about. Yeah.
Gotcha. All right. So you're in Maui. How'd you hear about the Big Island and what was going on as far as the Moravian Conference? How did that come about?
It had to have been Instagram. Back then, that was my hub of where I would, get a lot of my information of what's going on. And I don't know if it was Brother Akil or Brother Cosmo that I saw their page. I think I just searched up, Moorish, and the Aloha Moorish Retreat Center came up, and I was amazed. I was like, okay, well, yeah, here's another group of Moors that's actually organizing and doing something that's self-sustaining. To me, that was always the biggest thing. Is I always had a natural inclination of, wanting to raise chickens and goats and cows and the farm life.
Wow.
Because when I was born in so-called Dominican Republic, my favorite times were always when I would go over into the countryside with my aunt.
Yes.
She was growing plantains and yucca, of course. She had some cacao plants. That was the best. Every time I would go, she would make me some fresh chocolate.
Yes.
And to me, that was real life. It felt like when I was in nature is where I was meant to be. When I was in my apartment or when I was in the city, it felt like that's not where I ultimately want to be. I never felt fully comfortable in a city. It was always, surrounded by trees and plants and animals that I felt like, this is where I should be. So seeing that they were living off grid, that was a huge inspiration for me because I was already living off grid in Maui on some Kingdom of Hawaii sovereign land.
Okay.
And so, I had my solar panel, I had my little domicile, I would bathe in the river. And the only thing that was missing was really doing it in a way that brought community together for us to build infrastructure. After you get the land, you got to cultivate it. You got to start to build infrastructure for all the basic necessities.
Okay.
And so I saw they were doing that on Big Island, and I reached out to Cosmo, and I told him, I want to be a part of this. And he offered me to be able to purchase some land there. And the rest is history. Now we got some land in Big Island.
Wow, congratulations. That's a beautiful demonstration. I actually had the opportunity to see your cabin as well. If one were to go on the Facebook page, they'll actually see your cabin is actually part of that featured marketing aspect
Yeah.
for the Aloha Moorish retreat. So honest to you and just your contribution as it pertains to that.
Alhamdulillah.
Which brings me into simplicity. It's one thing to be growing up in Dominican Republic and connecting with the land. You know, you came to America, right? Was there a religious perspective that you were influenced by prior to even knowing that you are more, etc.? And what is it? You know, what was that home life growing up? You know, what was that? Is it, you know, prior to Islam and yourself being exposed to just the teaching of Prophet Muhammad and things of that nature? What was your background?
So I was baptized Catholic.
Wow.
As a baby.
Okay.
As most Dominicans, you know.
Yes.
The name Dominican actually comes from one of the Catholic orders.
Mm-hmm.
So Dominican Republic is the only flag that has the Bible.
Really?
Yeah, and it's open to the page. Don't quote me. I think it's John, but don't quote me on the chapter. But I know that it's open to the one that says the truth shall set you free.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, the three main branches of Catholicism are the Jesuits,
yes,
the Franciscans, and the Dominicans.
So I didn't see it. Never looked at it from that perspective before.
So we happen to fall into that
category.
You know? So most Dominicans are Catholic because that's where they got their name to begin with. And I was raised Jehovah's Witness because my mother is Jehovah's Witness.
Okay.
My father, his family is Catholic, but you know, Catholics, they have their own way of practicing.
Yes.
You know, and we never really went to like a church at any kind of Catholic demonstration. But being raised Jehovah's Witness, we would go to Bible studies. We would go to the Kingdom Hall.
Yes.
You know, at least like twice a week to the Kingdom Hall, one book study. So like 3 times a week, you know, we were studying the Bible. The New World Translation is one that the Jehovah's Witness that they read from.
So you used to go out doing some of the door knocking?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Like towards the end of it when I was older and going around and giving the pamphlets and everything. Even still, you'll catch my mom out preaching. You know?
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, she's right there in Briarwood.
Oh, wow.
If you've ever seen those stands, you've probably seen my mother.
Yes. Okay, small world. Wow.
Super small world.
Indeed.
And so being raised in that, it was a lot of questions and not a lot of answers. Mm-hmm. I would always question and I would read the Bible for myself, and I realized that there's a lot of the Bible that's not talked about in the sermons. Like what they are actually speaking to the masses, to the congregation. They would kind of, I don't want to say hide because that has an intention behind it, but they just wouldn't speak about certain aspects of the Bible. So I would always bring that up because that's what I'm curious about. You're teaching me about this one thing. I understand that, but now where's this other, piece so that I can piece it together myself? And it would always just be like, oh, well, it's a mystery. We don't know how God works. And I began to realize that a lot of, the environment in Briarwood is turbulent. Like I went to MS-217, I went to PS-117. If anybody knows Briarwood, they know PS-117 and MS-217 are right across the street from each other.
Yes.
And so there was a lot of, gang influence in MS-217 and a lot of different things happening. So getting exposed to drugs and violence and gangs and all these different things and hearing one thing at home and another thing in the streets, you get to a situation where you're choosing, okay,
like a crossroad.
Like I'm over here and I'm learning from this, but they're not giving me the answers to the questions I have over here at, being Jehovah's Witness. And my friends and in the streets, they're telling me life is this way and this is how you're successful. So there's two clashing things. And I began to realize like all the things that I'm naturally inclined to, they're telling me over here that it's going to bring me to hell. So I'm thinking, okay, well then either God made me with these inclinations and desires to destine me to hell, or I got to keep on researching and see where it is that I can find my salvation, because this isn't resonating with me anymore. Mm-hmm. So I went through a time where I was atheist, not believing in God at all after a while, because there just wasn't enough answers over here. I
Yes.
couldn't properly worship if I don't even know the God that I'm worshiping. If it's all a mystery, then
Gotcha.
how am I going to do it?
Indeed.
So after that, I started looking into more esoteric, occultism, mysticism, Buddhism, Hermeticism, all these different things. And I saw that there was pieces of truth in everything.
Gotcha.
Then finally, I looked into the Quran, and I realized all the truth that I've ever seen in my life was in the Quran, and it was in Islam in a way that was pure and in a way that was consistent. There was no contradictions, and I could just tell it was pure.
Mm-hmm.
So it was something that as soon as I realized that was the truth, I took my Shahada.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting story.
Mm.
See, a lot of people listening and viewing us right now, and they might be hearing the word Shahada for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
And I never want to ever assume that when we use words, people really know what the word means, right? It's just like how, as you start to go through your path and you're searching, Jehovah's Witness, Catholic influence, now you're looking at all these different aspects, even to the point of one losing your faith. You're thinking like maybe there's no God,
Yeah.
but that's the soul now searching, because it's your birthright to do what? Question. Because if thing does not match up, because one thing we all do as children, we start to look and say, hey, what you show me don't quite match up. How can the book be saying this? Y'all have these pamphlets and it's saying something else. I have questions. At least Radio Shack said what? You've got questions, we've got answers, right?
Yeah.
I worked for Radio Shack a while back when I was in college. And when I came out, I was actually store manager, assistant store manager in White Plains. And that was always drilled into us. You know what I mean? You've got questions. As techies, well, we got to have answers, right?
Absolutely.
So who is the greatest tech and techniques other than Allah, other than the source of all life? And all children have the right, if they have questions, to be answered correctly. At least say, I don't know, I'll get back to you. And if we do say we'll get back to our children, we sincerely get back to them. And children do exactly what you did. You came to a crossroad. You know what I mean? And it's unfortunate to even think that in any community, schools might be where children now have to think, oh my goodness, the streets are calling me. Yeah. You get what I'm saying? This philosophy over here ain't really working for me anymore. What am I going to do? So in coming to that crossroad, you find this purity of Islam, but then here comes the word Shahada. What is Shahada?
Very simply, it's testimony. So there are 5 pillars in Islam. There's Shahada, which is to testify.
Yes. And
it's a very simple testification. You're testifying that there's only one God worthy of worship.
Okay.
And that the Prophet Muhammad, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, peace and blessings be upon him, is a messenger and prophet of that God.
Okay.
You know, a continuation of all the prophets that
Indeed.
we respect.
You
know, the ones that are known in the Torah and in the Bible. Moses, Abraham, Noah, Jesus. It's a continuation. God always sends prophets in order to prevent the destruction of a nation. Okay. So before judgment comes, here's the messenger and here's the message for us to correct ourselves until the judgment comes through and does what's necessary.
Okay.
And so after Shahada, that's one of the pillars. Then there's Salah, which is prayer. So after prayer, there's zakat, charity. You have to donate 2.5% of whatever wealth you're accumulating for the year. Then there's also fasting, the month of Ramadan. And there's also other Sunnah fasts, such as Mondays, Thursdays, the 13th to the 15th of the Islamic calendars, which are the white days. So Shahada, Salah, zakat. There's Hajj.
Okay.
So Hajj is going to Mecca and making that pilgrimage.
Uh-huh.
And what's the other pillar? I said Shahada, Salah, Zakat, Hajj. And there's one that's escaping me right now.
Charity is basically zakat.
Yes.
There's the
testimony,
which
the
is
prayer,
the faith.
Hajj. Yeah, the other one is escaping me, which is fine.
Interesting. It will come to us.
Yeah.
Yeah, it will definitely come to us. But the Shahada is important because I remember somebody at one point said, there's a differentiation that comes at different points, right? And it's as if they don't respect anyone who said they're a Muslim if they haven't done Shahada. Why is that?
Just because it's that first step, or considered that first step. Really, the first step before you even say the testimony is to feel it in your heart. You know, it can't be something that you're just professing, but it's not first in your heart. So really, the first thing is to find God in your heart and to have that intention of seeking out the Creator, the Most High, the truth. These are all names of the God, the one true God, Allah. And so Shahada, it's important because it's just like how Noble Ali said, if we do nothing else, at least proclaim your nationality. To proclaim that and have it be known in your community that you are somebody that follows God is something that is very precious and very valuable, because we have prophecy that at the end of time, at the end of the days, there's going to be a time where the name of God is not even spoken. So that is part of our own cleansing and our own benefit, that we proclaim that we follow God and that we follow the prophets as well.
Okay. So confession is a consistent theme for the most part throughout every religion, even in Catholicism, right? It is said that you go to the priest to confess. Yet I've seen where confession could be the very thing that is now used against the one who actually confessed. Because now that you've now professed this confession, one now know a weakness. You know, sometimes the strength and weakness of any organization could be the very confession. The Catholic priest, for instance, could utilize what was confessed against the individual. But sometimes the secrecy and the privacy of what the clergy or that role actually brings protects. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So by no means am I speaking ill of any organized group. I'm simply just speaking to, if one opens oneself up to something and say, I confess this. But in essence, the true essence then of confession needs to be, once you profess something, you're now saying to the world, this is how I live.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So it's more on that basis where we need not have light and hide the light, right? So when we say universal pathway, we want to make sure that we're not in any way saying religion from the perspective of making people think this is something strange. So the true essence of Shahada is one publicly making a profession that, hey, this is who I am. So I need not have something that is so great and so valuable and feel as if I need to hide it. And now that I've done that, I'm willing to now assist others who's willing to travel this similar path. So some point, someone probably said, you know what? Would you be willing to take Shahada from me? So it's a continuation along a link of those who now profess to live a certain way, where we now look out for each other, we have each other's back. So in the true essence of it, just like you said, and I love how you said the proclaiming one's nationality. If you do nothing else, proclaim your nationality. Why? Because people were denationalized. So the same way people were denationalized of something that they ought to have is the same way morally we've been stripped of certain things. And being stripped of this truth that Allah is, when we come back into it, Islam give us the opportunity as Muslim to now let it be known publicly that I'm one who submit to the will of Allah. And if the organized group is doing these different things, I'm willing to do these things along with the organized group and not be a variance with that group. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Indeed. So with that being said, we're going to go to a quick commercial and we'll be right back in 1 minute. Please do not touch that dial. We'll be right back in 1 minute. I'm Curtis Douglas Ill. I'm your host right here at Universal Pathway, and I'm here in the studio with our good brother, Brother Amor Ill. We'll be right back. Welcome, viewers in America and those worldwide. This is Universal Pathway, and I'm your host, Curtis Douglas Ill. With our show, viewers get to hear our guests share their life lessons from a universal perspective so others can benefit. You can view us live at MillenniumTV24.com Saturdays from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're on all iOS and Android devices via our app. You can also view us on all smart TVs, Sony, Samsung, LG, also on Amazon, Fire Stick, Roku, Apple TV, Horizon Satellite, and most social media such as Facebook and YouTube. Please encourage others to come and view us with an open mind. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome back to Universal Pathway. I'm your host, Curtis Douglas Ill, and I'm here in the studio today with my good brother, Brother Amor Ill. He's an advocate for sustainable living. This is somebody who literally uprooted himself from the States. He's gone to Maui, the Big Island, and I've actually lived off the grid for some time. And he's back here in New York, getting his finance together to be able to now go back to the very place in Hawaii to truly live life, in his words, a simple life. Prior to the commercial, we mentioned the very 5 pillars of Islam. And forgive us for our math, because we were here scratching I was scratching on the fez, and he's just, we're pondering, wait a minute, did we say 4? We actually said all 5 pillars of Islam. So would you like to repeat that again for the viewing audience?
To profess, so the Shahada, Salah, the prayer, Zakat, the almsgiving, Hajj, the pilgrimage, and fasting.
That's correct.
So it's all 5.
All 5. Indeed. And my Arabic is not the best, but Shahada is basically the same thing as saying the declaration of faith, right? Salah is basically Arabic for prayer, and Zakat, giving, charity, etc. And Swam, that is fasting. And of course, he mentioned the pilgrimage, which is Hajj. So honest to you for bringing that clarity as well. And I never want to assume, because when we speak about somebody who's actually in a faith and practicing that faith, I'd rather give them the opportunity to demonstrate and declare what that is. So honest to you for bringing that to the forefront as well, because that's a part of your universal approach back to the one God on that path, which brings us back to that simplicity of life. In that simplicity of life, you're looking to return to Hawaii at some point. Are you going to go by yourself, or is there some love interest in the background that you're working on? Because, I mean, come on now. I mean, you're going back to the garden today. You're looking like Jesus, like good brother Jesus, right? Right? Which, look very sharp. That's and we know that he was a full-blooded melanated. So you're definitely a full-blooded melanated brother. So it gives credit. The brother got the 9 ether. He got the hair, the curls, all that good stuff. It's not that image that's been projected onto us as a people. Prophet Noble Joali said, we're giving Christianity back, right? Mm-hmm. So in giving Christianity back and going back to those simplicity of life, connecting back to nature. The Garden of Eden started out with one man and one woman, right? So there has to be a sister or somebody of interest, earlier outside, and this is just part of culture. And we were saying, a young lady, they were giving us some charity, doing some zakat on the outside. It was actually a food pantry. And he abstained from shaking her hand. It's a part of, you said it was a part of your religious custom. Mm-hmm. So with that being said, even though you can't interact with women in general in such a manner, right? There's still that allowance, I would think, in Islam for you to have a wife, right?
That's half the religion.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you speak to that? You just going back by yourself, or what is it, brother? What's going on?
Currently, I'm speaking to a sister. It's a Muslim sister, and we've been speaking for a few months now. And okay. Of course, in Islam, the proper way for a man to interact with a non-mahram woman, which is a woman that you're allowed to marry.
Yes.
So anybody that is not your blood relative, your mom, your grandma, aunt, or sister, or daughter, or any of that nature, those are your mahram.
Okay.
So those women, yeah, you're allowed to hug and embrace, but outside of that, I like to tell people I don't even have female friends. I don't have friends of the opposite sex, because that's too close for comfort.
Gotcha.
To comfort for me. But I've been speaking with this sister, and the proper way to do it is, you go naturally you go to the masjid, you go to the mosque, and you pray with the brothers and with the uncles, and sometimes they'll approach you and they'll be like, well, I see this man here 5 times a day. He's here before dawn. He's here after,
Okay.
and I see that he's praying and he's a good man. I wonder if he has a wife, because I have a daughter that I want to marry to a good man. I have a sister that I know is looking for a good man, or something like that. So it's through the wali, through the guardianship.
Gotcha.
As men, we have a responsibility to protect our women.
Yes.
And so first, you got to go to whoever her guardian is. You got to go to her father and be like, yeah, this is who I am. And through there, if he approves of you, then you go forth. So my plan with Hawaii right now is to go there first by myself, get things comfortable, of course.
Okay.
And then once things are nice and comfortable, then let my future wife, inshallah, know that, yeah, I got things ready, come through, and we can live off grid and start the family, inshallah.
Inshallah. So did the wali approve of you yet, or what?
We're in process, because
Okay.
it's a interesting situation.
Gotcha.
Because I don't know how private I want to get, but it's an interesting situation.
Okay.
But yes, I'm
Not a problem.
speaking
Not a
with
problem.
yeah.
Oh, okay. No problem. I'm not trying to go into the areas
No,
like, come
you're
on,
good,
brother,
you're
stay in your lane.
Yeah.
With all the respect, I respect boundaries, people. This is Universal Pathway, but we respect each other, and in every possible way. Which brings me to you have a serious love for just the deen and just the teaching as it would pertain to Islam, and I'm honest just to see how you respect it, right, and how you explain it. It really brings a certain calmness to you. Your demeanor have always been one to be very calm, very loving, very gentle, which you have aspiration to move into that role of even the possibility of what it means to be an imam. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yes, imam, it means leader.
Okay.
A spiritual leader.
Yes.
And so it's actually very interesting, because when I was in Maui and I took my Shahada, I thought I was the only Muslim on the whole island. I didn't know there was any other Muslims.
Uh-huh.
And maybe 2-3 months it took for me to even realize there was a masjid, because there's only one masjid in Maui.
Okay.
And when I got there, I realized they didn't even have an imam dedicated to that masjid. It's like the brothers, the community come together and they're renting a space, and we use that every Friday to pray. But there is an imam that he's stationed in Las Vegas. He goes all over. Every time I speak with, I call him my imam.
Yes,
he's like
yes,
my
yes.
personal
Okay,
imam.
gotcha.
He's always just all over doing different conferences, and a lot of beautiful work for the deen. And I lived on a property on the mountain in Kula,
Mhm.
in Maui, with 2 brothers. One of them, he was the one that owned the land, and then my imam, Aziz is his name.
Okay.
So Imam Aziz. And we would wake up for Fajr, the first prayer every single day, and pray together. And after, I would come back from work and I would go down to where he was, because I was higher up on the road.
Yes.
And we would pray together. And I remember there was one time where I came and he was already in prayer, so I didn't want to disturb him. But over on the side, I started praying, and midway, he finished his prayer, so he came next to me on my right side.
Mhm.
And I remember, well, this is my imam, this is the elder as well, so
Yes.
always got to respect your elder. So when he joined me, I expected him to lead.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
So we're just standing, we're in position, and I'm waiting for him to give the signal for us to go into ruku, to go into the bowing position. And so I'm waiting for him to say Allahu Akbar.
Yes.
And he just doesn't. So it took me a while. I'm like, oh, this is kind of taking a while. And then it finally came to me like, oh, I think he's letting me lead. you know. So the imam wants me to be the imam, and sure enough, I continue. I led the prayer, and it was a very beautiful experience. You know, I wasn't used to that.
Okay.
I wasn't used to leading an elder in anything. You know, I always just fall to the default of like, okay, my elder is here. I'm gonna respect them, follow their lead, see how I can assist them. And this was really the first time ever in my life that
Wow.
I had an elder not even have to say it. That was really the beauty of it, was that it was no words were exchanged, but there was an understanding of allowing me an honored position.
Wow.
So after that, it really resonated with me. I was like, wow, like this is such a beautiful religion. This is such a beautiful way of life.
Yes.
And through that, I asked him, I was like, well, what does it take to be an imam? And he said, well, we can work out a program and I can, you know, help you out. So he offered, he's from Morocco, from the Kingdom of Morocco.
Okay.
Fez specific. the synchronicities
Yes, indeed.
beautiful.
Yes, all coming together.
And so he offered to pay for my schooling, for me to go to school to become an imam in Morocco. And at the time, I had so many different things that I was working on. You know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has cleared things out a little bit. So really, my next step is go to Hawaii, build on the land, assist in building the retreat center for the Aloha Moorish Retreat Center. And then once I feel stable and comfortable enough in what I've done there to always have a good home to go back to, a good base to go back to, then inshallah, I just have to pay for my ticket to Morocco and for my wife, inshallah, and we'll have a place to stay and a place for me to become an imam over there in Morocco.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a beautiful story. Indeed. So let's backtrack a little bit, because you mentioned something, taking your shahada. When did that happen? And how did that happen? Because I think we kind of moved past that, but you kind of brought up just now when you just mentioned your experience and then being in Maui and then praying with the imam. Who approached you? And yes, to kind of speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, nobody approached me to become a Muslim. It really was, it's so interesting because I remember when I was an atheist, I would tell people all the time, they'd be like, well, how do you not believe in God? And I was like, well, I just don't feel like there's enough evidence. And if God is all powerful and all knowing, then he will know and be able to get me to believe in him in the perfect way. Mm-hmm. If he's omniscient and omnipotent,
yes,
then I'll believe. It'll just, if that's what it's destined to be, then that's what it'll be. And as I went on my theological journey and researching all these different spiritual paths, it just came to the point where I finally got to Islam. Mm-hmm. You know, I was so much into all the other studies, and I think it was because it was so unstructured. I liked that these spiritual paths didn't ask me to pray 5 times a day, to give charity, to do like, it's a discipline. Mm-hmm. I wasn't ready to be disciplined yet.
Gotcha.
So I was just following my own internal, you know, compass. My fitra is a word for the innate connection that we have to the Creator. I just believe, okay, well, I'm just gonna follow my heart, and that'll lead me to where I need to be. And eventually, it led me to actually pick up the Quran and to research Islam. And through that, I was like, well, now that I have this information, how can I practice it? What do I do? So I just started searching up online, like, okay, what does it mean to be a Muslim? So then that's where Shahada came in, and I would watch videos on YouTube and Instagram and just doing my own research and looking at different books. That finally I took my Shahada, which is funny because I took my Shahada by myself. I didn't have anybody around. I didn't know there were any other Muslims in Maui. Later on in the path, I realized that to like really make it official, you're supposed to have at least like 2 other Muslims to bear witness.
Yes, sir.
But I never really needed that, just because everybody knew, that I'm Muslim, and I've given so many other people their shahada, and I've already testified so much in front of people that people already know. It was something between me and God, and then as people saw my character, they realized like, oh yeah, you're Muslim.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, it's deep. That's deep. So you're hearing it live for the first time on Universal Pathway. Our good brother Amor Ill actually went from being an atheist to actually studying out and doing his shahada, and now he's on that path to hopefully one day you're planning on doing a Hajj.
Absolutely, inshallah. I would love to, as soon as I'm able to, because that is one of the obligations of Muslims, that if you're able to. Yeah. If you're not, then that's between you and the Most High, and the Most High understands the circumstances that you're in. But definitely, I mean, if you're spending a couple $1,000s on shoes every other month, and you're buying a whole bunch of unnecessary things, you're gonna have to say God about that. Like, God doesn't like waste. Doesn't like it when we waste our potential and our money, our resources on things that could be used in a better way to glorify Him.
Gotcha. Yeah. There's something that I think with everyone we have a uniqueness, right? Mm-hmm. On the way here, you and I actually drove here together to the studio, and we were speaking about just a uniqueness, just like the fingerprints, right? And through that uniqueness, the variation that we have in human being, there's something about it that allow us to stand out, and we can actually do things that others cannot. What I mean by that, how many languages do you speak?
2 fluently, English and Spanish, and I'm learning Arabic.
Okay. So right now, America, the Prophet Noble Ali, peace be upon him, says Moors learn Spanish, right? So you speak Spanish fluently. You originate in Dominican Republic, anciently known as Hispaniola. And we're seeing where more and more people from that Spanish tongue are in America. And a lot of them are being exposed to something similar that the Moors here in America, the Moorish Americans got exposed to, where they were called these derogatory names, whether it be Negro, Black, Colored. Now they're being called Hispanic. They're being called Latino. They're being called, you know what I mean? Yeah. Where it's moving away from who they are organically connected to, what a pedigree, would it be the land, lineage back to their mother or father, being disconnected from that, and they're being branded, marked something else. No different from what you said earlier in regards to the word Franciscan, Jesuits or Dominican, right? Yes. So a similar scenario keeps happening, but people don't realize that through these branding, others can now come in and psychologically control a group of people. Mm-hmm. Uniquely, you have the capability through just even your query and just your path to be of use to the brothers and sisters who speak the Spanish tongue. Mm-hmm. Do you see yourself doing anything along those lines to be able to now, whether it be bring Shahada to them, bring the similar aspect of even what Prophet Noble Ali seeing as it pertains to his people, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Being misbranded, where those who speak the Spanish tongue today can easily now thinking, oh, I'm Latino, or I'm Hispanic, not realizing what you're taking on is a brand and a denationalization of yourself. Can you speak to that a little bit? But hold that thought, because we're going to go to a commercial. Our second commercial here today. We'll be right back right here on Universal Pathway. I'm your host, Curtis Douglas Ill. I'm in the studio today with Brother Amor Ill. We'll continue with this line of questioning as it pertains to just how him speaking Spanish can be more beneficial to his people as well. We'll be right back. Welcome, viewers in America and those worldwide. This is Universal Pathway, and I'm your host, Curtis Douglas Hill. With our show, viewers get to hear our guests share their life lessons from a universal perspective so others can benefit. You can view us live at MillenniumTV24.com Saturdays from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're on all iOS and Android devices via our app. You can also view us on all smart TVs, Sony, Samsung, LG, also on Amazon, Fire Stick, Roku, Apple TV, Horizon Satellite, and most social media such as Facebook and YouTube. Please encourage others to come and view us with an open mind. Welcome back. I'm Curtis Douglas Hill, and we're in the studio today with my good brother Amor Hill. And prior to the break, we basically touched on some of the uniqueness about him as an individual and what he's now learning and how he can be benefit to people who speak a similar language such as himself. And that language now being specifically Spanish. We as a people in so many different areas have been misbranded. Nicknames can be introduced to us, but it could be detrimental. Prophet Noble Joali, peace be upon him, brought to the Moors, the Asiatics here in America, truth about themselves. He says, you're not Negro, Black, or colored, that these names were given to slave by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865 during the time of slavery. But he said, this is a new era of time now. And all men now must proclaim, just like he said with Shahada, it's a declaration, proclaim their free national team to be what? Recognized by the government in which they live and the nation of the earth. So now, even with spirituality, in one declaring their Shahada, the government in which they live, in Islam, that government is governed by the great God Allah, the Sharia law, etc. So with that being said, I was asking my good brother Amor Hill, the uniqueness that he brings. How do you see yourself now speaking that tongue, being exposed to Moorish science, being exposed to Islam, those practicing those 5 pillars, etc., bringing that back to those now who be misclassified, who might not know, who might be thinking like atheism is the way, who might have grown up Jehovah's Witness, you know what I'm saying, got that similar, who might be like, do I want to move into the gang, here I'm in high school and I'm being introduced to this, and the old way that I was being taught morally, it does not quite fit. Can you speak to that a little bit, your uniqueness and just the information that you now think you can make a difference in those who can now relate to you by way of your tongue?
Yeah, all praise to the Most High. I have gotten at least 14 shahadas.
Wow.
Since I've
been busy, brother.
I've just been available.
Wow.
The Most High.
Yes.
If I'm having a conversation, it has to aim towards God, or else I might as well be silent. That's where we're commanded to keep our tongues moist with the name of God and the reverence, the love, the respect, the glory of the Most High. And so if people talk to me, eventually I'm going to talk about God, and then I'm going to ask them, like, okay, what's your concept? What's your portion, your perspective on what God is? And so in my family, yesterday, actually, one of my cousins took his Shahada.
Wow.
I had given him a Quran for him to read. He was curious, and it's very obvious that I'm Muslim. the beard and the way that I dress. And so whenever somebody will like compliment me, like, oh, wow, you look good in white, I say, all praise to the Most High.
Indeed.
And that already opens the door, to speaking about God. And then when I ask people, do you believe there's only one God worthy of worship? Most people say yes.
Okay.
It's been like 95% of the time, people have said, yes, I do believe there's only one God. Mm-hmm. You're already halfway into the Shahada. You already proclaimed half of it.
Indeed.
And then the only other part what people need to be educated in is knowing about the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So that's when I offer them, do you want a free Quran? It'll be my honor for you to get this and to get closer to God. And so I've had my cousin yesterday. Before that, my grandma took her Shahada.
Wow.
Because she's always...
Wait a minute. She was a Jehovah's Witness?
Catholic.
Okay.
But see, that's what, at least in what I've experienced in my life, I know some families are a lot more Catholic and they go to church and they do all this stuff, but Dominicans are kind of flimsy on their Catholicism. We're very, you know.
No offense to Dominicans watching.
Yeah, no offense. You take it how you want. But I asked my grandma, because she's always talking about God. She's a very godly woman. And so I asked her, you know, she'll call upon Jesus and stuff like that. I was like, well, do you think Jesus is God? And she's like, no, he's a, you know, prophet. He's a messenger of God. I was like, oh, yeah, I agree. So you believe there's only one God, right? Worthy of worship. Do you worship Jesus? She said, no, I don't worship Jesus. I was like, well, she already took half the Shahada.
Wow.
So then I asked her, well, what do you know about the Prophet Muhammad, sallallahu alaihi wasallam? And of course, she didn't know anything. She just wasn't exposed to the information. So as I spoke to her more and more about the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, she was like, oh yeah, that's a messenger of God.
Wow.
And I was like, well, you're Muslim. You like, not just profess it.
Yes. I'm going to say honest to you, my brother, because I'm going to say this. Your way of articulating the Shahada is very unique. It's very gentle. It's not forceful. And it's actually scientific.
Yeah.
Right?
It's just logical.
Yes.
It doesn't matter about how you feel about it. You know, if you ask somebody that is the sun hot, does the sun provide heat and light? Most people
say yes. Yes, indeed.
You know, and there's in Islam we say that the difference between a true prophet and a false prophet is the difference between the sun and the moon. You can very much tell the difference when it's daytime and it's nighttime.
Yes.
So in the same way, we can distinguish who are the true prophets and who are the false prophets. And so when you convey that information to people, it's just facts. It's just pure science. It's observable.
Indeed.
You know, so I feel like there are a lot of born Muslims that when I tell them of my path and I tell them that I've had, you know, people take their Shahada, they're kind of amazed, you know, because some of them are born Muslim and they haven't had anybody, you know, take their Shahada. And I think I just keep it real simple. It's, do you believe there's one God worthy of worship? Do you believe that the Prophet Muhammad is the messenger, prophet of that God? And I think people, when they think of Muslims, they think like, oh, I got to stop drinking. I got to stop smoking. I got to stop this and I got to stop that. And yeah, eventually. And that's between you and God. God knows how much of a weight is upon you. But as long as you keep going to God with a repentant heart and you seek the forgiveness of God, God is the most forgiving. So don't let the fact that you still drink and smoke and whatever your sin is, don't let the devil prevent you from professing that you worship God. Just profess it, and then from there, ask God to guide you. And you never know how far you're going to be able to go. That's what God has written for you.
Wow. Yeah. Very profound words, my brother, in the sense of your heart, and the name that you have, Amor, speaks to love. Yeah. So you definitely resonate with a vibration of compassion and more looking to open up ways for people as opposed to keeping them closed. So, you know, we know that Islam does not believe in original sin, but people do make mistakes, right? People do have vices that they might hold to in different ways. That might have been their struggle. And for us to say, hey, you know, you fell 10 times, you can't get up 11 times. It's not for us to determine that, right? So one person might fail 5 times and get up to 6, and they good. But some people might be like, look, they might fall 1,000 times only to get up to 1,001. Only the great God alone knows. Yeah. So honest to you in extending people that grace and just your way of explaining Shahada, because truth be told, I've not heard it explained that simple, that logical, and that clear. And the way you might not have heard it before, but I'll be the first to say, I'll be one to say that the way our good brother explained it, it actually opens people up to that path as opposed to close it off. You know, you didn't come off with a self-righteous vibe as it pertains to that. You open up even just the humility of saying, hey, at one point you were an atheist.
Yeah.
So your vulnerability in your confession, that's what I said, confession is about that alignment, your honesty and your truth in your path. You open yourself up. And people now who might have been an atheist could say, oh my goodness, they acknowledge that within themselves, the confession first, and they can now proclaim and declare it out loud to neutralize it, nullify it, to be able to allow certain truth to rush back in. Right? So our examples in life are very profound. And many times it takes for us kind of like a lesson that we recently spoke about in our Friday lesson, the More Science Temple of America, New York, as it pertains to reciprocal help, mutual obligation. These are always to the assistance of others. So thank you for the assistance in just bringing me clarity, because you brought me some clarity today as to some of the perspective, right, that you shared. And I hope that our viewers saw that as well. So we're in the last few minutes of our broadcast today. Is there anything that you have learned from a universal perspective that you think others might learn, you know, from the experiences that you've gathered? Anything that you'd like to say to our audience today?
Always turn to God. You know, I have people that'll come and ask me for words of advice or words of wisdom and a solution or an answer to a problem or a question that they have. And I always like to ask them first, did you go to God about it? Before you came to the creation, a fellow creation, did you go to the Creator and ask from the Creator? And as far as the self-sustainability as well, that I'm an advocate of, I always like to tell people, you know, the sun never asked me for my social security number. The fruit trees never asked me for my bank account number. The rivers never asked me for my tax return. So go to God and go to nature, do for self, and take that lesson as well from nature, that the sun doesn't feel its own warmth. The fruit trees don't eat their own fruits. The rivers don't drink themselves. The natural way that we're supposed to be is to give. So go to God and be selfless.
Wow. Wow, some beautiful words, profound words in many aspects. You shared about things that give of itself. And are they conscious that they're given of themselves? That's a profound thing that we now need to go and ponder on. So to give those examples of creation as an attempt to explain how the Creator give to us. Another thing real quick that we spoke to, it's not that the Creator is demanding from us anything, but there's an expectation. You know, no different from if we have children, there's an expectation that they will be good Muslim. If they grew up under the Muslim faith, they'll be good, whatever it is, that religion that you're professed in. And we'll be good human beings to each other, right? We'll be good neighbors to each other. We'll be loving, we'll be friendly, right? It is our duty that mankind should be friendly to thee, right? So we have an interest that other people can be beneficial. Not that a material aspect of interest usury, but a principle aspect. You know, a good tree can't bear bad fruit, and a bad tree cannot bear good fruit. So when we put those fruits out spiritually, and that's really what I'm seeing in your logical thought, you know, being able to have people 14 now doing the Shahada with you. You know what I mean? You question at a point where you're not pushing anything on anybody. But like you said, you being that river of thought, that vibration of love, eventually we're going to get there. We're going to talk about God, right? Right? Exactly. We're going to talk about God. Because what? That love that you now have for.
That's what I filled myself with. So that's what's going to come out of me as well.
Indeed. Indeed. All right. You have it right there. This is Universal Pathway. And again, honest to you, my good brother Amor Il,
Honest to you.
for building with us today in the studio. We trust that our viewing audience heard something that they could take away from, learn from this discussion. I know I have. And I look at ones who literally demonstrate in practice all 5 principles of Islam in a different light through what was shared here today. It's no need for anyone to look at anyone who practiced the faith of Islam and being taught to have a better appreciation for what Prophet Muhammad brought to us, peace be upon him, brought based on what we heard today. So with that being said, honors to our brother Amor Il for what he shared today. Honors to you all for viewing. Please share, like, and subscribe to this video. And you can always view us here live every Saturday from 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. I'm your host, Curtis Douglas Il, and this is Universal Pathway. Peace and love to you all.